And away we go. Episode 1112 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, July 14th, 2025. It is the day on which Nationals left fielder James Wood will participate in MLB's 2025 Home Run Derby. This is the day after day one of the 2025 MLB Draft, in which the Nats had the number one overall pick, and they, with that number one overall pick, took shortstop Eli Willits out of a high school in Oklahoma. The Nats did not take shortstop/third baseman Ethan Holliday, who many thought the Nats would take. The Nats did not take LSU starting pitcher Cade Anderson, who many thought the Nats would take. Eli Willits was the pick. This hours after an 8-1 loss at the Milwaukee Brewers on Sunday afternoon to complete a 3-game sweep and conclude a nightmare of a pre-All-Star break portion of the season for the Nats. Meantime, the Orioles, they had the numbers 19, 30, 31, and 37 overall picks in the 2025 MLB Draft. Very interesting what the O's did with those picks, and very disappointing what ended up happening with the O's in their series over the weekend, losing 2 out of 3 games against the Miami Marlins at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Coming up later in the show, analysis of what the Nats and O's did in the first round of the 2025 MLB Draft and breakdowns of each team's series over the weekend. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season at the All-Star break are 38 and 58 with a run differential of minus 102. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season at the All-Star break are 43 and 52 with a run differential of minus 90. Not exactly a better campaign so far for the two teams of Masson. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Before we talk Nats and O's, I have something very special for you on this podcast on which we talk Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. Next segment, a conversation with Ryan Porter. He is the Director of Football Operations, General Manager, Head Coach, Offensive Coordinator, and Quarterbacks Coach for California Power Athletes. He has been the personal quarterbacks coach for Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels since he was 12. Ryan is going to give us outstanding insight, including the story of how he came to be Daniels' personal quarterbacks coach, Daniels' exceptional footwork, the major positive influence of Daniels' father, who was the best man at Porter's wedding, the innovative virtual reality technology that Daniels uses, a key philosophy that Porter employs in coaching Daniels, how Daniels is, quote, a generational talent at the quarterback position, end quote, Porter's coaching points for Daniels in the 2025 offseason, Porter's pregame conversations with Daniels during the 2024 season, how Daniels is, quote, a Jordan-esque type figure, end quote, how Daniels will be a first-ballot member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and more. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. Ryan Porter, who has been the personal quarterbacks coach for Jayden Daniels since he was 12. Next segment. Before we get to some feedback, the Wizards, who have begun play in the NBA 2K26 Summer League 2025 in Las Vegas, they on Friday evening announced 2 transactions that were reported this past Thursday. The Wizards on Friday evening announced having signed unrestricted free agent Marvin Bagley III, and they on Friday evening announced having re-signed restricted free agent Tristan Vukcevic to a 2-way contract. Also, with this being MLB All-Star Week, traditionally the slowest sports news week of the year, I am taking some vacation days this week. The schedule for this podcast for this week is as follows. A show for Monday, that's what you're listening to right now. No show for Tuesday, no show for Wednesday, but shows for Thursday and Friday. So shows for Monday, Thursday, and Friday, no shows for Tuesday and Wednesday. As a certain someone likes to say, thank you for your attention to this matter. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Nate G on the Commanders and receiver Terry McLaurin still not having agreed on a contract extension, writes Nate. Hey, Al, I haven't written to the show in a while, but the longer that this Terry McLaurin contract situation goes on, the more frustrated that I get. I mean, I understand that a deal most likely will get done and that both parties are fighting for the best deal, and that can take time. You always hear about certain players giving teams hometown discounts. Well, I think that Terry deserves deserves a hometown bonus for his loyalty to the organization, despite all of the scandals and the awful quarterback play over the last 7 years. Pay the man his darn money. He showed you what he can be with an elite quarterback, subpar offensive line, and hardly any depth at the receiver position. Now imagine what he can be when Jayden Daniels has time to let the plays develop and Debo has taken some of the heat off of Terry. Anyway, thanks for all that you do. You continue to be the best Washington sports podcast out there. Keep it up. Thank you very much for that, Nate. Terry McLaurin deserves a big money contract extension. I continue to believe that he will get a big money contract extension this offseason. I am sticking to my mantra of there are too many reasons for the Commanders and McLaurin to agree on a contract extension this offseason, and too few reasons for the team and McLaurin not to agree on a contract extension this offseason. Here are the top 5 average annual values, AAVs, for NFL receivers per overthecap.com. Number 1, the Cincinnati Bengals, Jamar Chase, $40.25 million. Number 2, the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, $35 million. Number 3, the Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, $34 million. Number 4, the Pittsburgh Steelers, DK Metcalf, $32.999882 million. And number 5, the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown, $32 million. Those guys are 5 of 8 NFL receivers, each with an AAV of at least $30 million. Terry McLaurin, given the current market, deserves an AAV of at least $30 million, and you certainly could argue that his AAV should be at least $32 million. The Commanders have the salary cap space. McLaurin has been a productive and durable player and a model citizen. He deserves to get paid, especially if all that we're talking about is, say, a 3-year contract extension, which was the length of his last contract extension, which he signed in July 2022. Email from Chris Nace, lead attorney for the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, on the Nats potentially trading starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore. Writes Chris, "Hey Al, I've had a full season ticket plan for every season since the Nats arrived in D.C., so at least 2 tickets to every single Nats game ever played in Washington. If the Nats trade Gore, I would have a very hard time renewing. It would break my heart, but as a fan, you can only get walked all over for so long." Thank you for the email, Chris. I hear you. I do. People like Chris Nace, the ticket-buying Nats fans, deserve to be treated like gold by the Nats for sticking with the team through all of the losing since the 2019 World Series title. Whether the Nats should trade Mackenzie Gore before the 2025 MLB trade deadline on July 31st at 6 p.m. Eastern, to me, comes down to what interim general manager Mike DiBartolo thinks of the Nats rebuild. Does he view the rebuild as a failure and thus the Nats need to restart the rebuild? Or does he view the rebuild as salvageable? If the former is the case, then he should be very open to trading Gore, who is only under team control through the 2027 season. If the latter is the case, then DiBartolo should keep Gore because he's a foundational piece. But I totally get not having any interest in paying for tickets for a Nats team that would restart the rebuild. Trust me, I do. Well, the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers, continues to do great work. Just recently, an $8 million jury verdict in Baltimore City Circuit Court in a case in which the Nace Law Group represented the family of a 42-year-old man who died after a simple procedure. Lead attorney Chris Nace is a big Commanders fan, a big supporter of this podcast, and his firm wins trials. If you have a case, contact the Nace Law Group. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group is tremendous. It is a Washington, D.C.-based family law firm that handles medical malpractice, personal injury, birth injury, legal malpractice, and consumer protection cases, offering aggressive advocacy for victims in Washington, D.C. and West Virginia. Lead attorney Chris Nace is an experienced trial attorney who is not afraid to take cases to trials, and that's because the Nace Law Group wins trials. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wronged but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit Washington, D.C., injurylawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or Washington, D.C. injurylawyers.com and tell the NACE Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. The NACE Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. Hey, thank you to all of you who have given this podcast a 5-star rating and to have written nice reviews of the podcast. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. It is a pleasure to welcome to the Al Galdi podcast Ryan Porter. Ryan is the Director of Football Operations, General Manager, Head coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterbacks coach for California Power Athletes, which is a nonprofit organization that coaches and mentors 7-on-7 and 5-on-5 high school football teams that consist of the nation's top 4 and 5-star recruits. And Ryan has been the personal quarterbacks coach for Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels since he was 12 years old. You can follow Ryan on X at QB_coach_Porter. Coach, it is very nice to talk to you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm blessed, man. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on. How did you get into doing what you're currently doing?
Honest to God truth, Jayden. Obviously, I had a career in playing. I was a journeyman in my professional career. Played the bulk of my career in the old Arena Football League, the old AFL, which had its little 20, 30-year run. And then when I was done, I got into coaching high school. I get a fun story about Jayden. I was getting ready for my last year playing for the Philadelphia Soul, and I was doing some field work. Working on my, footwork and stuff like that. I was at a grass park right outside of a YMCA, and a gentleman approached me and asked me if I train quarterbacks or if I could. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, I can. And he said, my son plays quarterback. He's 12 years old. He'll be here tomorrow. And it was Jayden Daniels. It was his father. So, that's literally how all this started. So I took that as kind of divine intervention. You know what I mean? I thought this was a calling. The rest is history.
Have you ever spoken with former Redskins head coach Jay Gruden? Because he, as I'm sure you know, is an Arena Football League legend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he recruited me one year. Like I said, I was a journeyman. I played 9 years. And I had a good, probably hour conversation with him. Good guy. So I think he was with Tampa Bay at the time, Tampa or Orlando. He bounced back and forth. He told me a pretty funny story. He was like, look, now I will tell you. He was like, if we sign you and you're not performing, I will come out of retirement at halftime, which he did. He was known for that. He would literally come out of retirement and drop the clipboard and the whistle and put on a helmet and the shoulder pads and come out and play the second half.
Jay Gruden won 4 Arena Bowls as a quarterback and 2 more as a head coach. Not bad. How much these days do you actually work with Jayden Daniels, given that he's entering his second NFL season?
Yeah, well, I see Jayden in the offseason. It's limited now because obviously he's in the NFL and his schedule. So I see him a handful of times a year. Some seasons are different. It was more in college. So, I probably get to see him 2 to 4 to 5 times a year, depending on what his schedule looks like. There's a specific thing that we do in training with him, which has kind of been also like my niche. And you could talk to Jayden's dad about it. Like, it's foundational training, right? There is a foundation in place with fundamentals, core fundamentals and footwork, rhythm and timing, which if you really dive into what Jayden does with his film, there's purposeful of his multiple 3-step, 5-step, back out, 1-step, rhythm and timing. And I think that's kind of a lost art in quarterback play nowadays, where you see everybody taking the one slide or the ghost drop, throwing everything. They're all, they're rotational and they're throwing everything off platform and stuff. And Jayden is, in my opinion, the best at it. How he is taking even 7-step drops from the gun, or he's taking a flash five, rhythm five, big five. It's a rhythm and timing thing for him. So, and that's kind of been my niche in the training.
Why is Jayden Daniels so good in that regard?
He has, and I've said it in multiple interviews, he has defensive back feet. He has DB feet. So his footwork is the best I've ever seen, and it's something that he practices. We have an old saying with him: is your eyes control your feet controls your throwing motion. So what your feet do, your arm does. And when we taught him at an early age, we taught him from everything under the center. Right. So instead of nowadays, if you're throwing, quick game concept out of gun, right, it's either like a one punch or it's a quick left right. We were teaching him to throw it from a correct 3-step drop under center. So he understands the timing of it. And I think since that's been instilled in him at a very, very young age, I could tell you he did a throwing session for Penn State the second semester of his junior season. And the coach that's now the head coach for Old Dominion, I think Ricky Ron, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Ricky Ronnie.
Ricky Ronnie, right? He came out and we threw every route. Jayden threw every route from 4 different drops. And he was scratching his head going like, hold on, this kid's doing this from, and I was like, all right, what do you want to see? So he said the specific routes you wanted to see. And I was like, all right, Jayden, do this from a flash five or rhythm five, or I knew this from a big 3, right? And this go from underneath. And he was just mind blown that he was doing this at a very, very young age. So that's why I say the foundational training was put in place at a very, very early age.
What else beyond Jayden Daniels' mechanics has impressed you in working with him?
Well, the mechanics for him are instinctive now. It's something that he's been doing for a very, very long time. But I think something that's not talked about enough about his development is his dad. His dad, what his father instilled in him at a very, very young age. The dad element is not talked about enough. And that's how I met Jayden. And his dad was a former defensive back for University of Washington at Iowa State. And when Jayden decided he wanted to play the position of quarterback, his dad went out and found him what he felt was the best opportunities to prepare him for the next level. But that also became the dad, Javon, Jay, we call him, who was actually my best man at my wedding, mentally prepared him for you're going to have to learn to have to operate in a very chaotic and hectic environment at all times, whether it's on and off the field. And constantly was watching film with him, constantly was teaching him, the different ins and outs of how to play the position and just preparing this young man. I say right now, I've never met a better quarterback dad, or I should say quarterback parent, other than his father, Jay Daniels. So what you're seeing right now, right, was instilled in him by his father. Right. Yeah, you can try to give credit to the trainers and stuff like that. But if you want me to give flowers to anybody, it's his father, man. What his dad did, how he brought him up, how he raised him, and what he instilled in him at a very, very, very young age on how to play the position and how to prepare was from his dad.
What has been your experience with the already legendary work ethic of Jayden Daniels?
Again, instilled in him by his father, right? And that's exactly who you're going to get, is somebody that's going to wake up at the crack of dawn and wants to work in silence. He wants his work to show on Sundays. So he's going to get there early, 4 a.m. in the morning. He's going to watch film. He's going to do all the work to put in. That way Sundays can be as easy as possible for him. And they're not going to be easy on Sundays, but he's a kid that's going to be consistent and persistent. It's somebody that is in love with the process and loves the grind.
What do you think about the cutting-edge virtual reality technology that Jayden Daniels used at LSU and now uses with the Commanders?
Yeah, so I got a really good relationship with Joe Sloan, and obviously different coaches over at LSU. And what I like to call, they have their Bill Nye the Science Guy over there, man, who actually does what's the baseball bats. He's from the state of Pennsylvania. All my family's from Western PA. So he has this little corner office in the athletic department, or actually the athletic training department. and he was talking about it there. He was saying, like, talking about from a visual perspective, and I mean, I could sit and talk to this guy for hours. Um, and yeah, every time I get a chance to go up there, I get to go a little bit more in depth, explaining the why behind it. And again, it's just, I think, a lot of good mental and visual preparation that you don't actually have to go out there and practice. You get to see different, different stunts, different. You could set your own protection on it. You get to see different coverages. You get to do it. There's crazy the stuff you can do now virtually with that.
Is the guy who you were just talking about Jack Marucci?
Yeah, Mr. Marucci. Yeah.
Okay, Jack Marucci, LSU's Director of Performance Innovation. I had him on the podcast in May 2024, and he was outstanding at discussing Jayden Daniels and the VR technology. Really groundbreaking stuff.
He was breaking stuff down of even like what concepts and certain routes to throw for success based off which eye is dominant. You know what I mean? Like I was just blown away. Like that kind of stuff to me is so fascinating. I think there's so many people, so many quarterback trainers that get so wrapped up in the science behind stuff, but then they can overdo it, right? But if you take somebody like him, I think he does it the right way, right? Like there's some of these cornerback trainers, and they're trying to create the perfect shoulder to hip dissociation, and I'm like, guys, and they're so wrapped up in what it looks like, your spinal cord, and all. There's space for that. But when you have a zero technique or one technique breathing down your neck, you're not really thinking about the science of it, right? So I think there's a lane for it. And I think what he's been able to figure out and what he's become obsessed with and then used it with Jayden has been so big for Jayden's development. And obviously it's shown.
Jayden Daniels was a collegiate QB1 for 5 seasons, 3 seasons at Arizona State, 2 seasons at LSU. How did you see Daniels improve in working with him during his collegiate career?
So it's if you take a deep dive into what he did in high school, it's almost identical to what he did in high school. If you look at his 4 years in high school, I would challenge anybody that's listening to this, go back and look at his stats, freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year in high school, and look at his stats, the same thing as 5 years in college football. It wasn't much different. It was very consistent, right? And you dealt with some unfortunate circumstances as a sophomore in high school as he did as a sophomore in college, right? Whether it be injuries or there's some type of on the field or off the field adversity, not created by Jayden, obviously, right? And you watch the perseverance. Sorry, you can hear my dog barking in the background. But you watch the perseverance and how consistent Jayden was with his completion percentage, which isn't talked about enough, and his touchdown to turnover ratio is just crazy. But he did very, very similar things in high school that he did in college.
Much more with Ryan Porter in moments. Are you looking to upgrade the heart of your home? Whether it's time to repair your gas fireplace, modernize your hearth, or simply add more comfort and style, Nova Fireplace and Stove is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for heat, safety, and home transformation. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Nova Fireplace and Stove has a beautiful showroom in Woodbridge, Virginia. That's where your dream fireplace begins. Come in and see Nova Fireplace and Stove's stunning displays, including custom fireplace glass doors and stone refacing options that can completely transform the look of your fireplace. From sleek and modern to rustic and cozy, Nova Fireplace and Stove has something for every style. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Every job includes a free in-home estimate. And for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention this ad. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia, and this knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed because Nova Fireplace and Stove takes pride in every flame that is lit and every customer who is served. So stop by the showroom, see what's possible, and let Nova Fireplace and Stove help you bring warmth, safety, and style to your space. You could also visit NovaFireplaceandStove.com. Nova Fireplace and Stove, where comfort meets craftsmanship and your fireplace becomes the heart of your home. We're talking with Ryan Porter, the Director of Football Operations, General Manager, Head Coach, Offensive Coordinator, and Quarterbacks Coach for California Power Athletes. He has been the personal quarterbacks coach for Jayden Daniels since he was 12. Do you have communication with the Commanders so that there isn't contradiction between what they're teaching Jayden Daniels and what you're teaching Daniels?
My contact's strictly with Jayden, and it's the same way I prefer to train all my high school and my college coaches. Like this year, I have an Ohio State commit, I had an Alabama commit. Like I have a bunch of I stay in the college market as much as possible, and even in the high school market with all my 5-star, 4-star kids. This is what I tell them: your head coach, your offense coordinator, your quarterback coach is your CEO. There's 100 different ways to skin a cat, right? I'm never going to be one of those quarterback coaches that says, this, I believe my way is the best way to do things, right? For example, when Jayden, in shotgun, I'm a big left foot forward guy, right, in your stance. And when Coach Lycan, when there was a new offense coordinator, Coach Hill came in, he wanted to switch Jayden's stance. So Jayden came to me like, wait a minute, we've been doing left foot forward since my junior year of high school. It was like, buddy, there's no big deal here. We're just going to fine tune whatever. At the end of the day, the cat's going to get skinned, right? Like there's no panic. So I'm never going to be one of those ones that gets involved with all the stuff works, man. It's if you put time and effort in to polish it. The way I look at it is you're just sharpening another tool and being able to put it in your tool bag, right? And it just really causes problems for the defense because when you start playing the higher level you get, you're playing high level college football, you're playing high level, professional football is everybody's good now, and the money's in the details. So they're trying to key certain rhythmic cues on you as a quarterback. They're trying to time your drop, right? Or if you're a patter of the football, whatever it is, they're trying to key certain things that's going to give them a competitive advantage when they're playing against you. So if there's multiple things that you can do, now you're playing chess as a quarterback instead of playing checkers, right? So it's good to learn a bunch of different things. So let's come back and work on it.
Makes sense. Did you like the offense of Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury for Jayden Daniels this past season?
I think they did a fantastic job. I think they did a fantastic job helping Jayden create a rhythm. But I also think Washington, you guys have a generational talent at the quarterback position, somebody that's mature beyond his years, walks up to the line of scrimmage and he has a plan and he executes his plan. He understands if you can't protect it, you can't throw it. He's not a greedy quarterback, right? We all understand there's one defense designed to stop an offense, and that's man coverage, right? And bring pressure. And if you're going to play zone coverage, Jayden does not get bored. A lot of quarterbacks get bored and they want to show their arm. They want to throw the intermediate, the deep ball, deep dig, comebacks, whatever it is, they want to throw the post. They want to take a shot. Jayden will take what the defense gives him every single time. He will win first down. He will put the team in good situations to where you're in third and manageable instead of 3rd and 10. Right. And I think that's something you saw, which is very rare for quarterbacks in general, let alone being a young quarterback, to be able to do that kind of stuff. That's Jayden. So
how can Jayden Daniels be better? Like, what coaching points did you have for him this offseason?
The key is consistency, right? So I think you have to put together year after year after year. You have to continue to keep doing the same things. There's a ton of things we can do different, right? So I think from a rhythm and timing standpoint, I think there's different things he can do fundamentally in his drops that maybe now everybody has a year of film on him. So maybe take a deep dive in what he did last year and maybe add a couple new tools, right? And some drops that he can do. I think also and this is just from my own experience, is learning how to control the line of scrimmage with your voice, right? Now, with your checks, dummy checks, and also, um, going on different snap counts, right? That way you can create the picture you want to see. If you have a team that's rocking and rolling and they're too high, rolling down to three high, or you're trying to disguise blitzes and stunts, right? Being able to go on first sound, first color, second color, first number, second number, whatever it is in your cadence. That way you can kind of control the narrative with your voice. I think you saw, somebody like Peyton Manning doing a very, very good job of that, where you want to you want to catch the defense out of position and off balance. So I think as you get older, you can do, fun things like that. And if that makes sense, controlling the line of scrimmage with your voice. Um, I think your first year, you're just trying to get the play call in. You're trying to make sure you're on time and get everybody set. And I think as you start getting more familiar with the system, then you can start doing things right to your advantage as a quarterback to be able to get the clear picture from the defense of what you want them to do.
What were your interactions with Jayden Daniels this past season like?
So I mean, obviously my career didn't go to where Jayden's was, but I also know how busy I was playing college football and playing, arena football and stuff like that. So I I uh, I leave Jayden alone. We have a ritual um, where he's very routine based and a traditionalist. So he calls me before every game on Sunday. And we talk from as little as a minute up to 5 to 7 minutes. And we talk about how he's feeling, what are some things that he did different that week in practice, what he expects from his opponent that week. Just have a regular conversation about kind of, and then I'll tell him like, hey, this is what I noticed last week, right? Switch your drops up or do something like that. I mean, he's getting a million things thrown at him, right? At the end of the day, he's a man, but he's still a kid, man, to me, right? He's young, 24. Um, and so, uh, usually those are how the conversations go. Um, and I'll go back. I have obviously every NFL app you could think of on my TV. So I'll go back and watch the sped up version of the game later at night and kind of take my own notes and stuff like that. But I'll be honest with you, man, like there's not much you have to critique with his game. His game is pretty. I haven't seen many better, to be honest. That's not even me being biased. Like I said, I think he's going to eventually be a Jordan-esque type figure, and he's a generational talent. I truly believe that. You guys got a good one.
Wow, so good to hear all of that. Is the overall state of quarterback play today better or worse than the overall state of quarterback play when you started coaching?
Yeah, I think, and this is my assessment of, and I can't say talent, but as far as like fundamentally, that like there's some. I was born in '81, man. So I think the two greatest pure passers to ever play the game are Dan Marino and Warren Moon, right? Like the ones that could just throw it around. But I get to grow up and watch, Marino, Moon, Randall Cunningham, Troy Aikman, Montana, Steve Young. I have a quarterback shirt that has legends on it and it has like the Boomer Esiason, Jim Kelly. I mean, man, Brett Favre, like these guys were, it didn't get much, but, but it was a different style of football back then too. Right. So now what I'm noticing and I'm not just talking about NFL, but I'm also talking about high school, college. The athleticism is crazy. It's better athletes, stronger arms, but fundamentally, it's a mess. It's a mess right now. I mean, you can just turn on the Reese's Bowl, right, the Senior Bowl, and you see kids that are thrown for a gazillion yards, right, in college, but they can't even take a snap from under center. And then we want to draft them in the first, second, or third round in the NFL, right? And it's just catered to whatever they're doing in college. Fundamentally, they're screwed up, man. They're screwed up, and they take the same drop, the one slide, right? They don't understand taking multiple drops, and they're struggling just fundamentally learning how to hand the football off, right? And the play calls are, much different, much simpler, I would say, in college. I remember when I got sent with 4 plays. I had to identify Mike. right? I had to set my own protections, in college and stuff like that. So I think there's an even balance. But if you're asking me quarterback play, it's talent wise, they're as talented as I've ever seen. But fundamentally, there's ooh, ooh. I hope I'm answering your question. Um, I think the quarterback and the offensive tackle position is the one position people evaluate and get it wrong more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
They get enamored with seeing somebody able to throw it a country mile, but there's so many other things. What I mean? Like, what redeeming qualities are we evaluating on these kids nowadays? I mean, it's kind of tough, man.
I hear you. Well, I know that I speak for a lot of people listening when I say thank you for doing what you have done with Jayden Daniels, because he clearly has been coached and prepared extremely well.
Listen, Jayden, I can't take credit. God placed him and his dad in my life, right, at a very his young age, and I'm just a small part of the journey. And like I said again, I don't think everybody talks, they want to talk about, his quarterback trainer, and they want to talk to his high school coach. And guys, the secret sauce has been his father, his dad, his dad. So if anybody can, his dad is very private behind the scenes, and I witnessed it. I had front row seats for it. And him and his dad are very much alike, very quiet. They don't want to, they want to share the spotlight. They don't want the spotlight, but that's been instilled with him. And I'll go on saying this. I said it in college. I'm saying it in the NFL. I said he was going to win a Heisman Trophy. I said he'd be a first round pick. You guys, as long as he stays healthy, this is somebody I think they'll win, multiple NFL MVPs and will win a Super Bowl and will be a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer. No question. And it's going to be fun to watch. You guys got a great one.
Outstanding. Ryan Porter, the Director of Football Operations, General Manager, Head Coach, Offensive Coordinator, and Quarterbacks Coach for California Power Athletes. He has been the personal quarterbacks coach for Jayden Daniels since he was 12. Coach, thanks. All the best.
Thank you.
Okay, tremendous stuff from Ryan Porter on Jayden Daniels. Says that he'll win multiple NFL MVPs, a Super Bowl, and be a first ballot inductee to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think we all would sign up for that career for Jayden Daniels. Hey, want to let you know about a new sponsor of this podcast, Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions, which provides residential and commercial carpet and wood flooring solutions for the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, and has been doing so for 2 generations and over 40 years. Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions is a full-service wood flooring and carpet provider. Wood floor cleaning, refinishing, and installation, carpet repair, carpet installation, and custom rug fabrication. Excellent and reliable work, and Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions self-performs all installations. No subcontractors. The person who you meet on the initial consultation or measurement will be the same person doing the actual work. The wood flooring in our house has taken quite a beating from our 2 small kids. This is exactly the kind of thing that Ingrained Floor Covering Solutions can fix. High-level wood floor cleaning and refinishing, screen and recoat, sand and finish, etc. And here's a special deal for listeners of this podcast. Visit ingrainedfs.com, mention that Al Galdi sent you, and you'll get a 10% discount. That's ingrainedfs.com. Mention that Al Galdi sent you, and you'll get a 10% discount. So, did you see what Mike Rizzo is doing? We, on Friday morning, 5 days after Nats managing principal owner Mark Lerner on July 6 fired Rizzo as the team's president of baseball operations and general manager, and fired Davey Martinez as manager, got the following announcement from the Rizzo Family Foundation in a post on X, quote, as a way to say thank you to the fans for 19 amazing years with the Washington Nationals, grab a round on Riz, Monday, July 14th, before the Home Run Derby at Penn Quarter Sports Tavern or Walter's Sports Bar. First round of beer is on us from 5 to 7 p.m. Cheers to an incredible ride, end quote. Walter Sports Bar and Penn Quarter Sports Tavern, two terrific spots. I've broadcasted from each spot. Walter is a big sponsor of the Nats podcast that I do, Nats Chat, and Penn Quarter Sports Tavern is where I did the official Redskins postgame show on the Washington Redskins radio network for road games during the 2014 regular season. Jay Gruden's first season as Redskins head coach. But what a gesture by Mike Rizzo, buying fans beers in honor of his time working for the Nats. Total class act. Of course, a big reason that Mike Rizzo no longer is in charge of Nats baseball operations is the Nats having been really bad at drafting and player development for years now. It says a lot that the Lerner ownership group fired Rizzo the week before the start of a 2025 MLB Draft in which the Nats had the number 1 overall pick. I mean, think about that. Now, the Nats interim general manager is Mike DeBartolo. The Nats do still have vice president of amateur scouting Danny Haas and senior director of amateur scouting Brad Cialek, each of whom was hired by the team in October 2023. We on Sunday evening had the first 3 rounds of the 2025 MLB Draft, which is taking place at the Coca-Cola Roxy in Georgia. And the Nats, with the number 1 overall pick, took a middle infielder from a high school in Oklahoma, but not Ethan Holiday. The Nats, with the number 1 overall pick, took shortstop Eli Willits out of a high school in Oklahoma. The Nats did not take shortstop/third baseman Ethan Holiday, who also is out of a high school in Oklahoma, and who many thought the Nats would take. He was taken by the Colorado Rockies with the number 4 overall pick. The Nats did not take LSU starting pitcher Cade Anderson, who many thought the Nats would take. He was taken by the Seattle Mariners with the number 3 overall pick. So why Eli Willits? Well, he is a talented player. He this past season had an OPS of 1,514 over 128 plate appearances, a .602 on-base percentage, and a .912 slugging percentage. He hit .473 with 14 doubles, a triple, 8 home runs, 34 RBI, 27 walks, 47 stolen bases, and 56 runs scored while striking out just 4 times. Now, these are high school numbers. I get that, but those are video game numbers. Eli Willits is a young player, and this to me is a sneaky positive with this guy. He's just 17 years old. He was born on December 9th, 2007. He at 17 years old and 7 months is the youngest first overall pick in an MLB draft ever and is the 4th youngest selection at any point in the history of the MLB draft. If he is a hit, and that is an if, but if he is a hit, the Nats will have this guy hitting the major league level at a supremely young age, and then when he comes up for free agency, he still will be young enough to where you don't feel bad about giving him a long-term big money contract. We're a ways away from that, but there is tremendous value in a player hitting free agency in his mid-20s as opposed to his late 20s or even early 30s. Eli Willits, if he is a hit, and that's an if, would be hitting free agency in his mid-20s. His dad played in the majors. Reggie Willits was an outfielder for the Los Angeles Angels at the major league level for the 2006 through 2011 seasons and was the New York Yankees first base coach for the 2018 through 2021 seasons. But Eli Willits also is expected to be cheaper than Ethan Holiday and Cade Anderson, each of whom was represented by the Boras Corporation, a.k.a. super agent Scott Boras. Willits is not represented by Boras and isn't expected to command as high of a signing bonus as Holiday and Anderson are/were expected to command. The way that the MLB draft works is that each team has a pool of money to spend. The Nats for the 2025 MLB draft have a total pool of $16,597,800 to spend. The Nats, in theory, could benefit from spending less on the number 1 overall pick and then more on other picks, like, say, first-round talents who fall due to signability/money concerns. It's not a bad strategy, and it is a strategy that plenty of teams employ. So the Nats doing this isn't necessarily a sign of the Lerner ownership group being cheap, okay? But I will say this. If the Nats took Eli Willits mainly because of the money and truly think that Ethan Holliday and or Cade Anderson is a better player, then that's bad. But it is entirely plausible that the Nats truly viewed Eli Willits as the best overall player in the 2025 MLB Draft. There was no obvious player to be taken with the number 1 overall pick in this draft. So it may well be that the Nats liked Eli Willits the most. And he's cheaper than Ethan Holliday and Cade Anderson. But the money thing is absolutely worth mentioning, given the current concerns with the Lerner ownership group. The Nats now are loaded with promising young shortstops. So C.J. Abrams, of course, is the organization's number 1 shortstop. But the Nats in their farm system have shortstop Seaver King, who is the number 4 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline, and shortstop Luke Dickerson, who is their number 6 overall prospect per MLB Pipeline. And the Nats now have Eli Willits. Now, shortstop is the number 1 most important defensive position in terms of first base, second base, shortstop, and third base, and is the most difficult of those 4 positions. So if a guy can play shortstop, he almost certainly can play any of those other 3 positions. So you need not worry about the Nats having too many shortstops. You can't get caught up in that kind of thing when it comes to the MLB Draft. The Nats, in a few years at the major league level, could have a very athletic infield with all of these shortstop-capable infielders. And not to bring up a sore subject, but there is also the issue of C.J. Abrams being with the team long-term. He's under team control through the 2028 season. His defense has been a problem. There's no guarantee that Abrams will be this team's shortstop beyond the 2028 season, okay? Especially considering the state of the Nats rebuild, which is not going well. If whoever ends up running Nats baseball operations determines that the rebuild is a failure and isn't salvageable, that a guy like Abrams could end up being traded. The Nats' ineptitude with drafting and player development has been a big problem. The Washington Post put out the following graphic a few days ago. Perhaps you saw this. If you, as of this past Tuesday morning, July 8th, looked at all position players taken by teams who signed after being selected in the 2012 through 2024 MLB drafts, Nats draft picks ranked dead last in MLB in combined career regular season offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference at 1.2. That is some number, 1.2. For comparison's sake, number 1 was the Houston Astros at 162. The MLB average was 63. The Nats, again, 1.2. That is atrocious. That is mind-bogglingly bad. That is completely and totally unacceptable. That needs to change, and hopefully is changing for the Nats. As for the Orioles, so they had the numbers 19, 30, 31, and 37 overall picks in the 2025 MLB Draft. The O's had the number 19 overall pick as their normal pick. The O's had the number 30 overall pick as compensation for losing starting pitcher Corbin Burns as a free agent this past offseason. The O's had the number 31 overall pick as compensation for losing outfielder Anthony Santander as a free agent this past offseason. And the O's had the number 37 overall pick via a trade that the O's announced this past Thursday morning of the trading of reliever Brian Baker to the Tampa Bay Rays for the number 37 overall pick in the 2025 MLB Draft in what to me was a great trade by Orioles executive vice president and general manager Mike Elias. The O's with the number 19 overall pick took catcher Ike Irish out of Auburn. The O's with the number 30 overall pick took catcher Caden Bodine out of Coastal Carolina. The O's with the number 31 overall pick took shortstop Vahiva Aloy out of the University of Arkansas. And the O's with the number 37 overall pick took outfielder Slater DeBrun out of a high school in Oregon. Mike Elias' preference with first-round picks since being hired as Orioles executive vice president and general manager in November 2018 has been to go with college bats. And sure enough, he on Sunday evening took a college bat with 3 of the Orioles' 4 first-round picks. Interesting that Elias spent the first two first-round picks on catchers. So with the O's having Adley Rutschman as their number one catcher at the major league level and having catcher Samuel Basallo as their number one overall prospect. But the MLB Draft is a draft in which a team should always go best player available, no matter the position, and that clearly is what Elias did. Now, a problem for Elias in his drafts with the O's has been pitching. He has not done a particularly good job of drafting pitchers, so we'll see if that changes with the later rounds of this draft. But 4 position players taken with the Orioles, 4 first-round picks in this draft. Well, Washington and Baltimore may be having disappointing seasons, but you still can put your knowledge of those teams and others to work for you on Prize Picks, which is offering free cash to listeners of this podcast. Download the Prize Picks app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks Pick'em is available in Virginia and Washington, D.C. You just pick more or less on players in various statistical categories like RBI or strikeouts. And Prize Picks Streak has arrived in Maryland. You make a free daily pick. Just choose more or less on one featured player projection each day and build your streak by winning for 2 or more days. Each correct pick grows your streak. Prize Picks is the best place to win cash while watching sports. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app, and Prize Picks is offering a special deal to listeners of the Al Galdi podcast. Download the app and use the promo code GALDI, my last name, GALDI. You do that, you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is awesome. I've used it. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to use. You make your picks in less than 60 seconds. You can turn your opinions into real money on Prize Picks and take advantage of what Prize Picks is offering to listeners of this podcast. Download the app, use the promo code GALDI, and you get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Well, a horrendous pre-All-Star break portion of the season for the Nationals now is over. The Nats over the weekend got swept for a second consecutive weekend. The Nats the previous weekend got swept in 3 games against the Boston Red Sox at Nationals Park. And then we on Sunday evening, July 6th, had the announcement from Nats managing principal owner Mark Lerner that he had fired president of baseball operations and general manager Mike Rizzo and manager Davey Martinez. And the Nats this past weekend got swept in 3 games at the Milwaukee Brewers. Friday night, an 8-3 loss at the Brewers. Saturday, a 6-5 walk-off loss at the Brewers in a game in which the Nats blew a 5-3 ninth-inning lead. And Sunday afternoon, an 8-1 loss at the Brewers. The Nats now are at a new low point in MLB's 2025 regular season. 20 games below 500, 38 and 58. You know, the Nats entered June just 2 games below 500, 28 and 30. The Nats since then are 10 and 28, and the Nats' run differential now is at minus 102. The Nats have the second worst record in the National League at 38 and 58 and have the second worst run differential in the National League at minus 102. The Nats this season are getting good seasons from 3 key building blocks in left fielder James Wood, shortstop C.J. Abrams, and starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore. Wood and Gore are all-stars. From that perspective, some good stuff is happening for the Nats, and yet the season so far has been terrible. 20 games below 500, minus 102 run differential, nowhere near good enough in this season number 5 of a rebuild that isn't working. The Brewers are a good team. They in this regular season now are 56 and 40, third best record in the National League. A bad series for the Nats offense, which was good in just 1 of the 3 games. The 8-3 loss at the Brewers on Friday night. The Nats scored just 3 runs and total just 6 hits, though the 6 hits were a home run, a triple, 3 doubles, and a single. And the Nats worked 4 walks, but the Nats went just 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Brewers reliever and former Orioles prospect D.L. Hull, he served as the Brewers opener. He allowed 1 run in 3 innings, and the Brewers then went with the starting pitcher Quinn Priester. He allowed 2 runs in 6 innings. The 6-5 walk-off loss at the Brewers on Saturday. The Nats scored 5 runs, totaled 11 hits, worked 3 walks, and went 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position. And the Nats did all of this despite striking out 14 times. So the 11 hits were 3 home runs and 8 singles. So the offense was good in that game. Brewers starting pitcher Brandon Woodruff, he finished with one of the strangest final lines that you'll ever see a starting pitcher have. He allowed 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings, but with 10 strikeouts versus no walks. Think about that. 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings, 10 strikeouts, no walks. He threw 81 pitches, 57 strikes versus just 24 balls. So there is some important context here. This was just Woodruff's second MLB regular season start since undergoing major right shoulder surgery in October 2023. And the 8-1 loss at the Brewers on Sunday afternoon, the Nats scored just 1 run, total just 4 hits, worked just 1 walk, and went just 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The 4 hits were a double and 3 singles. Brewer starting pitcher Freddie Peralta began his outing with 5 1/3 no-hit innings. He, for the game, allowed 1 run in 6 2/3 innings with 7 strikeouts versus 1 walk. Now, the Nats for this game did go without their top 2 hitters in James Wood and C.J. Abrams. Wood was not in a Nats starting lineup for a regular season game for the first time since the team on July 1st, 2024 announced having selected the contract of Wood from AAA Rochester, and he did not play on Sunday afternoon at all. So an off day, finally, for James Wood since being promoted to the majors. Wood in the 6-5 walk-off loss at the Brewers on Saturday as the Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter went 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. And C.J. Abrams, he as the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, was a late scratch from the Nats starting lineup for Sunday afternoon. This due to minor right shoulder soreness. Interesting series for Brady House. He was the Nats starting third baseman in each of the 3 games in the series. The 8-3 loss at the Brewers on Friday night. House, as the Nats number 7 batter, went 1 for 4 with an RBI double. He and the Nats 1-run 6 had a 2-out first pitch RBI double into left center field to cut the Nats deficit to 7-2. The 6-5 walk-off loss at the Brewers on Saturday. House, as the Nats number 6 batter, went 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer, a solo homer, and a single. A House in the Nats 1-run 4th had a 2-out first pitch solo homer on a bomb to left field for a 2-0 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 427 feet per StatCast and was his first major league regular season home run. And House in the Nats 2-run 8th had a 2-out 2-run homer to left field for a 4-3 Nats lead. That homer went a projected 401 feet per StatCast. But the 8-1 loss at the Brewers on Sunday afternoon, House as the Nats number 6 batter went 0 for 4 and committed a fielding error in the Brewers' 3-run second. The Nats took Brady House with the number 11 overall pick in the 2021 MLB Draft out of a high school in Georgia. This is his age 22 season. The Nats on June 16th announced having selected the contract of House from AAA Rochester. How he does is of major importance. House, since being promoted from Rochester, 98 plate appearances, OPS of 662. The Nats starting pitching and getting swept in 3 games at the Brewers over the weekend was bad in games 1 and 2, and then actually pretty good in Game 3. The 8-3 loss at the Brewers on Friday night, Mitchell Parker had another rough outing. He allowed 7 runs in 4 2/3 innings. He gave up 8 hits, which were a home run, 3 doubles, and 4 singles. He issued 3 walks. He recorded no strikeouts, though he did throw a lot of strikes. 85 pitches, 59 strikes, just 26 balls. So Parker in the bottom of the 3rd allowed 6 runs as he gave up a hit to each of the first 6 Brewers batters in the inning. He and the Brewers' 6-run 3rd gave up 3 singles, 2 doubles, and a home run. The homer was the last of the 6 hits. He gave up a 2-run homer by Christian Yelich to right field for a 6-1 Brewers lead. Mitchell Parker now for this regular season, 19 starts, ERA of 5.12, whip of 1.42, strikeouts per 9 innings of just 5.82. Those numbers are not good, and the lack of strikeouts really is hurting him. I mean, think about this. His ERA, 5.12, is nearly higher than his strikeouts per 9 innings, 5.82. Not good. The 6-5 walk-off loss at the Brewers on Saturday. Shinosuke Ogasawara made his second MLB regular season start. The Nats on July 6th announced having recalled Ogasawara from AAA Rochester. He and the Nats 6-4 loss to the Red Sox at Nationals Park on July 6th in his MLB regular season debut. Did not do well. 4 runs in 2 2/3 innings. Ogasawara in this loss at the Brewers on Saturday was better, but he did still end up struggling. He allowed 3 runs in 4 innings. He gave gave up 4 hits, which were 2 doubles and 2 singles. He issued a walk and a hit by pitch. He recorded just 2 strikeouts. He threw 56 pitches, 34 strikes versus 22 balls. Ogasawara actually tossed 3 scoreless innings, was actually doing fairly well, but he then allowed 3 runs in the bottom of the 4th, which included a Jackson Chourio RBI double on which left fielder James Wood came in on a line drive that then went over his outstretched arm and to the left field wall. Wood actually has been good defensively in left field, but that was not a good defensive moment. The Nats on Saturday night announced having optioned Ogasawara to AAA Rochester, though that may just be a procedural move for bullpen help. The Nats on Sunday morning announced having recalled reliever Andre Lara from AA Harrisburg. In the 8-1 loss at the Brewers on Sunday afternoon, Jake Irvin allowed 3 runs, all of which were unearned in 5 innings, and he had 5 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 4 hits, all of which were singles. He did issue a hit by pitch, but he threw a lot of strikes, 93 pitches, 62 strikes versus just 31 balls. All 3 of the runs that he allowed came in the bottom of the 2nd, during which third baseman Brady House committed a 2-out fielding error, and Irvin then gave up 3 consecutive singles, including a 2-out bases-loaded 2-run single by Anthony Siegler into right field and a 2-out RBI single by Sal Frelick through the right side of the infield. Jake Irvin now for this regular season, 20 starts, ERA of 4.58, whip of 1.29. And the Nats bullpen, in getting swept in 3 games at the Brewers over the weekend, was good in Game 1, but bad in Games 2 and 3. The 8-3 loss at the Brewers on Friday night. The bullpen was good. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 and a third innings. But the 6-5 walk-off loss at the Brewers on Saturday, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 3 runs in 4 and a third innings. Now, the first 3 relievers used by the Nats in this game did well. Brad Lord tossed 2 and a third perfect innings. Andrew Chafin faced 2 batters and got 2 outs. And Jose A. Ferrer tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite giving up back-to-back 1-out singles, but he induced a 4-3 double play off the bat of the Brewers' number 2 batter, William Contreras, to end the inning. But closer Kyle Finnegan, he allowed 3 runs in a third of an inning to fall to 18 for 24 on saves in this regular season. He gave up a leadoff infield single by Jackson Chourio to the left side of the infield. Finnegan then issued a 4-pitch walk of Christian Yelich. Finnegan then gave up a game-tying first pitch opposite field 2-run double by Andrew Vaughn to the right center field gap to tie the game at 5. And Finnegan gave up a walk-off, 1-out opposite field RBI single by Caleb Durbin to right field for a 6-5 Nats loss, a brutal loss for the Nats. And the 8-1 loss at the Brewers on Sunday afternoon, 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 5 runs in 3 innings. So Luis Garcia did toss a perfect bottom of the 6th with 2 swinging strikeouts. Mason Thompson did toss a scoreless and hitless bottom of the 7th. But Jackson Rutledge allowed 4 runs in a third of an inning as he and what ended up being a 5-run 8th for the Brewers gave up back-to-back home runs. He gave up an opposite field 3-run homer by Jackson Chourio to right center field for a 6-1 Brewers lead. The homer went a projected 425 feet per Statcast. And Rutledge, to the next batter he faced, gave up a solo homer by Bryce Terang to right center field for a 7-1 Brewers lead. And Andre Lara allowed a run in 2/3 of an inning. He and the Brewers' 5-run 8th faced 6 batters, got 2 outs. He allowed each of the first 4 batters he faced to reach base in issuing 2 walks and a hit by pitch and giving up an infield single. One of the walks was a 1-out bases-loaded walk of Isaac Collins for an 8-1 Brewers lead. Lara in this outing, 29 pitches, just 12 strikes versus 17 balls. Not ideal. Here was Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo during his postgame session with reporters on Sunday afternoon.
We're just gonna, this is a good time to reset. A lot of stuff happened in the past week, and this is gonna be a good time for everyone to reset to come back on Friday and be ready to play.
All right, and so now the Nats mercifully have their All-Star break. We have James Wood in the MLB Home Run Derby at the Atlanta Braves Truist Park in Georgia on Monday night at 8, and we have Wood and Mackenzie Gore as National League All-Stars for the MLB All-Star Game at Truist Park on Tuesday night at 8. The Nats will begin their post-All-Star break portion of the season with a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park this weekend. So the Orioles looked as if they'd be going into the All-Star break on a high note, but then came the last 2 days. The O's over the weekend lost 2 out of 3 games against the Miami Marlins at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Friday night, a 5-2 win over the Marlins to give the O's 6 wins in 7 games, but Saturday, a 6-0 loss to the Marlins, and Sunday, an 11-1 loss to the Marlins in a game in which Marlins left fielder and former Orioles prospect Kyle Stowers hit 3 home runs. The start of this game was delayed for an hour and 38 minutes due to rain. The O's in MLB's 2025 regular season now are 43-52, third worst record in the American League, and the Orioles' run differential now is at -90, third worst run differential in the American League. The Orioles' offense in losing 2 out of 3 games against the Marlins over the weekend was good in Game 1, but bad in Games 2 and 3. The 5-2 win over the Marlins on Friday night. The O's scored 5 runs, totaled 12 hits, worked 2 walks, and went 4 for 16 with runners in scoring position. The 12 hits were 3 doubles and 9 singles, but the 6-0 loss to the Marlins on Saturday, the O's scored no runs, totaled just 6 hits, worked just 1 walk, and went just 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. The 6 hits were 2 doubles and 4 singles, and the 11-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday, the O's scored 1 run, totaled just 5 hits, worked no walks, and went 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. The 5 hits were a home run, a double, and 3 singles, and the homer and the double each came from Ramon Laureano. He is the Orioles starting right fielder and number 5 batter, went 2 for 3 with a solo homer and a double. Did get caught in an attempted steal of third base, but Laureano in the 5-2 win over the Marlins on Friday night as the Orioles starting DH and number 5 batter went 3 for 4 with an RBI double, an RBI single, and another single. This guy continues to do well. Ramon Laureano for this regular season, 237 plate appearances, an OPS of 867. An awful series for the Orioles bullpen and the team losing 2 out of 3 games against the Marlins over the weekend. Orioles relievers in this series combined to allow 11 runs in 9 innings. The 5-2 win over the Marlins on Friday night. 2 Orioles relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 2 innings. Yadier Cano tossed a perfect top of the 8th, but Andrew Kittredge allowed 2 runs in 1 inning. He in the top of the 9th gave up a 2-run homer by Otto Lopez to left field on an 0-2 pitch to cut the Orioles lead to 5-2. The 6-0 loss to the Marlins on Saturday. 3 Orioles relievers officially combined to allow 5 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Gregory Soto officially tossed a third of a scoreless inning, but he in the top of the 7th and facing 2 batters issued a 2-out hit by pitch of Kyle Stowers and then gave up a 2-out RBI single by Derek Hill through the left side of the infield on a play on which Stowers was tagged out in a rundown between second base and third base. Sir Anthony Dominguez allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He in the top of the 8th allowed a run on a double, a wild pitch, and an RBI single. And Scott Bluett, don't call him Scott Blewett, Scott Bluett, he allowed 4 runs in 1 inning. He in the top of the 9th allowed 4 runs. He retired each of the first 2 batters in the inning, but he then gave up 4 consecutive 2-out hits, capped by a 2-out first pitch 2-run homer by Xavier Edwards to right field for a 6-0 Marlins lead. And the O's on Sunday afternoon announced having placed Bluett on the 15-day injured list due to right elbow discomfort. In the 11-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday, 4 Orioles relievers combined to allow 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Yadier Cano allowed 3 runs in 1 inning. He in the top of the 8th allowed 3 runs on a double, 3 singles, a walk, and a sac fly. A really bad series for the Orioles bullpen. Actually, a pretty good series for the Orioles rotation. The O's lost 2 out of 3 games against the Marlins over the weekend, despite the Orioles starting pitching being good in each of the first 2 games. The 5-2 win over the Marlins on Friday night. The Jekyll and Hyde act of Dean Kramer continued. Kramer tossed 7 scoreless innings with 7 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles. He threw 99 pitches, 64 strikes versus 35 balls. The extent to which Dean Kramer has been 2 different pitchers depending on where he's pitching really is something. Kramer for this regular season on the road, 12 starts, ERA of 5.83, whip of 1.53. But Kramer now for this regular season at home, 7 games, including 6 starts, ERA of exactly 2, whip of 0.91. The 6-0 loss to the Marlins on Saturday. Trevor Rogers was great against his former team. He officially allowed 1 run in 6 2/3 innings with 8 strikeouts. He gave up just 2 hits, both of which were singles. He issued 2 walks. He threw a lot of strikes, 99 pitches, 68 strikes, just 31 balls. It was last July 30th that the O's announced having traded second baseman / outfielder Connor Norby and outfielder Kyle Stowers to the Marlins for Trevor Rogers in a trade that has looked really bad with how well Stowers is doing. Rogers was so bad for the O's in the 2024 regular season that they last August 22nd, less than a month after acquiring him, announced having optioned him to AAA Norfolk. And then Rogers was on the 15-day injured list from this past March 27th, retroactive to March 24th to May 11th, due to a right knee subluxation that he suffered during a workout this past January. But Trevor Rogers now at the major league level this regular season, 6 starts, ERA of 1.53, whip of 0.82. He has been outstanding. However, the 11-1 loss to the Marlins on Sunday, Brandon Young allowed 7 runs in 4 1/3 innings. He gave up 9 hits, which were 4 home runs, 3 doubles, and 2 singles. He did have 4 strikeouts versus no walks, and he did throw a lot of strikes, 76 pitches, 56 strikes versus just 20 balls. But make no mistake, Young got shellacked, especially by Kyle Stowers, who hit 3 home runs off of Young. That was painful for every Orioles fan, no doubt. Stowers for the game, 5 for 5 with 3 homers, 2 singles, 6 RBI, and 4 runs. And so now the O's have their All-Star break. Their pre-All-Star break portion of the season, of course, has included a managerial change with the firing of Brandon Hyde and Tony Mansolino being promoted to interim manager. We have first baseman / outfielder Ryan O'Hearn as the Orioles lone All-Star. He'll represent the O's on the American League All-Star team for the MLB All-Star game at the Atlanta Braves Truist Park in Georgia on Tuesday night at 8. And the O's will begin their post-All-Star break portion of the season with a 7-game road trip beginning with a 3-game series at the Tampa Bay Rays this weekend. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. So, no show for Tuesday or Wednesday as I'm taking some vacation days. The next episode of this podcast will be for this Thursday, what will be episode 1113, and it'll have plenty for you on the Commanders and more. Have a great rest of your Monday. Have a great Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
You guys, as long as he stays healthy, this is somebody I think they'll win, multiple NFL MVPs and will win a Super Bowl and will be a first ballot NFL Hall of Famer. No question.